First, I would like to welcome everybody to our first live stream. This is kind of a little bit of an experiment, being that I've been in business for quite some time and I've been doing some social media and some other things, but I really kind of want to drill down and kind of get out some additional information and start to connect and build community around marketing, advertising, and strategic alliances and networking, because that's kind of really where the core of my entire career has been. So this is a first opportunity to have a live stream. And I want to take a second to introduce Deanna Spinka, who is actually going to be acting as somewhat of the producer for these types of live streams and and online things that I intend to do more of. So I'm going to introduce Deanna. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, and then she's going to take us into the topic of what we are going to be talking about today on this hour live stream, which is going to be the development of strategic alliances and questions around that. Why is a strategic alliance important, and or should be one of those arrows in your quiver when you are trying to build your business, build sales, build relationships that can also transcend outside of your business. This is also the kinds of things that you can have strategic alliances with friends and partners and other things that are not necessarily monetarily based. So that's what the topic of today's conversation is about. And now I'm going to let Deanna kind of do a little intro here and tell you a little bit about herself and what we're doing. And we're going to jump right into it after that. You're on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deanna, and I'm glad you are here. I'm glad that you're here watching it live, or if you're watching the recording, thanks a lot for coming. We're doing this live to do a little research on our upcoming program. And the reason for doing that is a little while ago, Vic and I decided to change things around his social media. And we decided to start doing more share his experience on social media, because I've known Vic for 4 years, and I started doing social media 4 years ago, and I saw the opportunity for other people to learn all the experience that Vic has, and we started sharing some of the things on his social media. And we want to go even deeper on his social media and starting engage more with people, because I've learned how much he knows, and he helped me to grow my business. I'm doing social media for brands, for bloggers, for experts, for marketing professionals, for everybody who needs to represent themselves on social media. And this live is dedicated to strategic alliance development. And Vic, tell me please, why did you choose this topic for this stream, and why do you think strategic alliance development is so important for businesses right now?
I know one of the reasons why it's always been an integral part of what I've done and how I've built my businesses is to form strategic alliances, because they can help you really stretch your advertising and marketing dollar. For one, you can either share costs of promotions and different things that are aligned with your strategic alliance partner. So now you're actually cutting your costs and amplifying your reach. So there's a double whammy here, and a benefit that's really something that a lot of people overlook, because I think we a collective, if we don't broaden our thinking, are like, this is what I do, and it's mine, and I'm not interested in letting other people into this because I have, yes, there are things that are intellectual properties. That's a different type of a thing. But I mean, there are markets. We all have markets that we sell to different people, right? And there's always people within those markets that are vertically integrated. So if I'm a florist and the guy down the street sells chocolate, our clients are the same. Okay. One sells chocolate, one sells flowers, but it's a gift item that is a discretionary gift item that is usually given to the same kind of a demographic, and the person purchasing it is very similar. So those are really not competitors, depending on the way you look at it. They can be strategic partners. They can get together and say, hey, you're selling to the same person, I'm selling to the same person. Let's actually sell them flowers and chocolates together, as opposed to you selling chocolates and me selling flowers only. Now you could potentially double your market. But I think a lot of people try to think of folks in their space as being competitors when they really could be their best strategic partners. So I think, and the answer to the second part of your question, the reason for now is because this is a really, really super tough time. I don't have to tell anybody about what's going on in the economy. I don't have to tell anybody everybody's fighting for every scrap they can get. Even the big box stores can't figure out what to do. You got Walmart having problems. You got Target having problems. You got all of these major people having problems. So it's not just about the small guy on the corner or woman on the corner who's trying to get their little business going. The big guys are having the same problems. This is the time for people to come together, figuratively and literally, in order to help amplify their businesses. And I think this is one of those areas that some people don't look at, only because they really haven't thought about it, because they're still stuck in the conventional ways of advertising. And in a way, even social media has now started to fall into a conventional way of advertising, because it's becoming so ubiquitous in everywhere we are, and everything we do. You can't pick up your phone without somebody trying to, send you a freaking ad on something. So that's why I think strategic alliance partnerships are something that people have not been cultivating intentionally. And I think now is the time. So that's the second part of your question.
Thank you. So give me a few examples of strategic alliance partnerships, and maybe what is the difference between collaborations and strategic partnerships?
Well, generally the difference between a collaboration, in my mind, okay, and I'll tell you what my definition is, okay? A collaboration is something where the two of you get together and say, okay, you know what, let's do an event together. Let's do an event together. And you get together and you put the event together, and you may, pool some resources, and you're still marketing your independent product. They're still marketing their independent product. You get together, it's a one-off, okay? It's a one-off. So that was a collaboration. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay. Mm-hmm. The day the event is over, the collaboration's over, essentially, unless it moves on to more of a strategic partnership development. Once you start to move into that kind of a situation, you want to have some type of I'm not even going to call it a contract, because it's not a contract. It would be more like a letter of understanding, an outline on what the two parties intend to do in this relationship, in this strategic partnership, that are going to further, and pay attention to this part, this is very important, both interests. It has to be equal. When you have a strategic partnership and it becomes unequal, whether that's treasure, whether that's time, whatever it is, and that becomes unequal, that alliance partnership is not going to last. So you want to have clear delineations as to what is expected of the parties involved. That way, you have a roadmap of how you're going to operate, and everybody's comfortable, because everybody feels like they're being heard, and everybody feels like they're moving forward in the relationship. So that, to me, is the distinctive difference. One is more intentional. The other is kind of a one-off. Okay.
And give me a few examples on strategic partnerships. We posted one case.
I can take you
by security for birds, but give me another one.
No, I'm gonna take you through one that's probably even more relevant, because of what's going on in our food, our supermarkets and things like that right now. Okay. This is something I did a long time ago. So I had a very large, at least for our region, a very large rug and upholstery cleaning company. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to spread their marketing. They were trying to come up with new ways to get new clients. They serviced a fairly high-end client. So they also were cleaning, carpets in New York City, the kind that you hang on the wall, not necessarily the kind that were on your floor. I mean, we're talking about museum kind of stuff that type of thing. Very, very high-end stuff. You have to have special insurances and all kinds of things, because now you're taking, in some cases, you're taking these very, very priceless pieces off the wall and taking them to another location. So there's all kinds of, there's all kinds of insurances and things that they had to have too. But they were looking to grow their marketplace for an upscale client. So they had a very targeted market. One of my other clients happened to be King Supermarkets. Well, King Supermarkets catered to kind of what Whole Foods does now, or D'Agostino's did in New York City, more of a boutique type of a supermarket, which had, high-end stuff, things that you couldn't always find. They had their caviars and they had their other things. They were catering to a more of an upscale market. So it was a perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was I went to King's and I said, look, this gentleman is trying to put together a relationship with this particular demographic and with this particular marketplace. At the time, King had just come out with their signature club card. And their pain point was there wasn't enough value for the signature club card. They were just giving some coupons, and because it was the early days of, affinity cards, like affinity club cards and points and all that stuff. It was the very beginning of that. So they were trying to create other ways for there to be additional values that were connected to the club card, so people would think about the club card more often. So I went to my rug cleaning person. I said, look, we're going to form a strategic alliance with King Supermarkets. We're going to put in a special phone line into your office, okay? And when your people pick it up, they have to say the King's name, that this is part of this alliance partnership. So they knew that they were calling the right place. It was a special number. We put posters in all of their stores. We did flyers, and we kicked off this program. Well, at the time, this is very interesting. At the time, I was actually on a retainer. I was, being paid monthly to help him with his marketing and building marketing ideas and strategic ideas. I saw this kicking off, and I saw the amount of business he started to do. So after the first 2 months, I went and I sat down with him. I said, look, let's talk about something. I said, I don't want you to pay me my retainer anymore. What I want is I want a piece of the back end of this business. I want a percentage of what's raised. Well, that did two things. One, it motivated me even more to help manage the strategic partnership, because the other thing about strategic partnerships is they need to be managed. It's not the kind of thing where you just say, okay, here's what we're going to do, and there's no accountability and there's no follow-up and there's no, there are moving parts here. This is actually a relationship. Well, somebody has to manage it. And as I saw things starting to taper off a little bit, it was not because either one of them lost interest in the relationship. It was because no one was really deeply managing the relationship. Well, what motivated me to manage the relationship was a piece of the back end, because my income wasn't going to change because I was on retainer. But if I helped grow this, that was going to change my income, and it ended up changing my income quite significantly. So my point is that there are sensible strategic alliances, but they have to be managed. That was something, and it ran for a couple of years. It's not an alliance that only ran for a month or two. They ended up doing that for a couple of years, which of course was great for me, but it was great for them too, because my client was only paying me for success. If the money went down, my money went down. If the money went up, my money went up. So he and I were in somewhat of a partnership too, because we all had a vested interest in the success of that program. That's what makes a super powerful alliance program.
So I guess over time, you also have to change things, right? Because people are getting tired of this partnership. They need new things.
Correct.
Or to be added to this partnership.
That was such a great observation, because on that particular one, we were probably about less than a year in. And you were absolutely right. We started to plateau. So then we added upholstery cleaning. Okay. We added window cleaning. We added other things on top of that, which were services that he could provide, which were services he would be. But now we were inside a marketplace that was getting more accustomed. And when they used their signature club card, they got a discount. So it was a value proposition to Kings and a value proposition to him because everybody was increasing their business.
So I guess the success of these strategic partnerships depends on the shared market, right? Like you have to share the market, or like can two companies that don't have any shared market meet and create a successful partnership?
The answer is yes, they could, but they have to be more strategic marketers, and they have to be open-minded to the fact that just because on the surface that their two markets are maybe completely, now obviously there are some that are never going to work. That's a true statement. But there's a middle rung there where you may have a slightly different market, but you haven't thought of opening up new emerging markets. What happens with business and marketing, and many people who are probably listening to this who've been in business for a while realizes that markets get saturated. Okay. Your target markets do get saturated, and they are what we all know of as emerging markets. These are other markets that are similar to what you're currently doing, but you haven't focused on them yet. And what forces you to focus on them is because you're getting saturated in your current market and you're looking to expand your business beyond that. If you're in a consumable product, it's a little bit less of a burden because people keep buying your thing over and over and over again. But if you're selling a product that's not a readily consumable product, I mean, how many washing machines are you going to buy in in 1 year? How many cars are you going to buy in 1 year? So those durable goods have a much longer time. So you've got to have more people in the pipeline. So that's why car companies have cheap cars and really expensive cars and cars in the middle, because they are now tapping into all markets. Okay. They're car companies and they sell cars, but you can buy a cheap car or you could buy a very expensive car. Okay. And you can buy a car. So those are really people who are segmenting their markets, but they're selling the same product. You get in the car, you turn it on, and you drive to where you're going. They're all cars, but they're different markets.
Okay, that's great. So I have a question from one of our guests. She's a creative director at an IT company specializing in internal communication software. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's like social media for corporations. Let's say Facebook for internal use for a company. And they host an annual event for their clients covering all the costs themselves. And she's curious about the value they could offer their partners who currently attend for free. So essentially, why would partners start paying for the event now? Because they go to the event, they don't pay anything. They give a speech on the stage. Everybody knows them already. What's going to be a difference?
Okay, great. And that's a great question, because now you're talking about something they've already set a particular expectation by having this event without having other people involved. They are basically paying for the whole thing. If I'm understanding the question, they're paying for the whole thing. They've had it before. They invite their partners, people that they are currently doing business with, but those partners are not participating in any way financially, other than coming and being highlighted on the stage or something like that. So I just want to make sure I understand the entire universe of the question.
Yes, you do.
Okay. The first thing they need to do is to communicate. Okay. And what I mean by communicate, I don't mean that in a nebulous way. I mean, they need to call their key partners that they have been feeding business to because they are their partners. They need to pick their top 5, however many partners there are. It could be 2 or 1, doesn't matter. And they need to talk to them, and they need to find out what is their perception of the value of their current relationship. How does their current relationship impact their business? Okay. Once they understand the communication part of it and what the value proposition is there, then they can say, look, you're very integral to our business. This is your friend now talking. Okay. This is the person who you said, is asking the question. This is the person asking the question. You said to us now that we are important to you, the fact that we represent X amount of dollars for you on an annual basis and things like that. We've come to a point in time where we really want to expand what we're doing and we want to have bigger and better thing, but we're limited now financially because we've been bearing the burden of this. And you have been a benefactor of our burden. Okay. So we need to talk about how we can share the burden so we can all grow our businesses, because we have a finite amount of money that we can spend. But if you come in and help us and form a strategic partnership, we will have more money. We'll be able to reach more people. We'll be able to have bigger events. And guess what? We both make more money. That's the conversation that needs to be had. It's about perspective, and it's about the positioning of your business, and it's about value. Undoing something that you've already been doing for a long time is harder than starting it from scratch. Everybody knows that. If they had started originally and went out to all of their partners and said, look, we're doing this thing, you're going to be a benefactor and we need you to kick in $5,000, 9 out of 10 of them would have done it. But they didn't think of that ahead of time. Okay. They didn't think about that ahead of time. They thought about it after the fact. So now they have to have a deeper conversation and say, look, this is in no way, shape, or form should it be approached as a threat or anything like that, where they perceive, well, wait a minute, if we don't participate in this thing monetarily, they're going to cut us off. You really don't want to approach them that way, especially if they're a good partner and they bring value to what it is that you do. That would be
no manipulation.
Exactly.
No blackmail.
No, and there you go. That's exact. Thank you for distilling it down to that simple statement, because you don't want to come across that way. You want to come across the way of, I want us to grow together. So what I'm asking you to do is help me and you get more business. That's something that any, thinking businessman or woman is interested in. Okay, they're going to listen to that. All right, whether they consummate the deal or not, they're going to listen to that. Okay, because that's why we're in business.
Okay, so I know you have your annual events. You had a 4 years break, but you still host.
Well, I brought it back. I brought it back right after COVID. Yeah. Well,
yeah. So let's say from your experience, what would you suggest for this IT company? I mean, I know you're not in IT, but maybe you have some ideas. What can be done during the event that could, like a collaboration or strategic alliance, during the event, not just like a booth or some kind of like presentation, like something, an idea that you have.
Well, but then what they're going to want to do, obviously that would be hard for me to answer without actually talking to both parties. I could certainly, I could help. And when I mean I don't mean me personally necessarily, but anybody who's in my position could sit down with them and kind of act as a soundboard and say, hey guys, what is it that you're currently doing? What is the most exciting thing that you're doing? What's the most exciting technology that you have that your marketplace would be interested in, that you both play a part in? Okay, that you both are part of that. It could be a product, it could be an idea, it could be a concept, whatever it is. You would then say, okay, let's talk about to our potential marketplace, existing clients and outside of those existing clients, about why that is special. What is that unique selling proposition for that particular thing? And why us? Why the two of us, or the three of us, or the four of us? Okay, why us? And why are we the best ones to deliver that solution? Because you're talking about IT, and IT is generally about solutions. Why are we the ones to choose, and why not Oracle? Or why not some of the big, one of the big five, who do this stuff, all over the world? Why us? What's our unique selling point? Are we nimble, more nimble because we have a partnership and an alliance together? Are we more desirable because we're going to pick up the phone and it's not going to be some robot talking to you? Whatever it is, whatever those differentiating things are, that can be ferreted out. And then at the event, because I want to go back to your question, at the event, you could then highlight that, whether that be in a combined video, whether it could be even fun to do it in a conversation, like a quick conversation at the event, because everybody who has an event addresses their group. Sometimes they address them all. Sometimes they address them too long, but they address the group. And you could say, hey, we want to make sure you're aware of this. This is what we're doing. Take a look at our QR code. It's going to take you to our special video that shows you about why we're different, whatever it is. That type of a thing they could do. Relatively low cost, could be very high impact. And the people at that event are going to gravitate toward them and say, tell me more. If they're interested, they're going to say, tell me more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for her to, you said you would sit down with them. Is it something you're going to do on the program? Like, can she actually?
Absolutely. If somebody were to take the program that we're going to be, doing, our multiple week program, and ask those questions, absolutely, I would sit down and say, okay, let's look at both sides of this thing and let's look at what you're trying to achieve. Always, for me, my first question is, what does success look like to you? What does success look like to you? Because what I think might be successful is not what you think might be successful. So I want to find out from the people I'm talking to, what's the goal? Okay. And then work backwards, right? If you tell me where you want to be, I'm going to work backwards on how you're going to get there. First, you got to buy a map, and then you got to map it out, and then you got to get in your car, and then you got to, okay, there's steps to it. But if I know what the destination is and they know what the destination is, you can map out a plan. Sometimes if they don't know the destination, they don't even know what success looks like to them. They keep throwing crap at the wall and they're like, wait a minute, why is this so disjointed? And why am I not getting anywhere? Because you don't have a clear vision as to where you actually want to be. That's question one. That is job one, to know what success looks like.
Okay. We have a question from our listener.
Okay.
Arv, if I pronounce your name correctly. I'm not a native speaker, so sometimes I struggle with names, and I'm sorry in advance. So he says, I have a question. I've invented a card game that is actually a powerful marketing, branding, engagement, and promotional tool. I've spent about 30 playable mockups to various. I've sent about 30 playable mockups to various companies, and not a single response. They were all cold. But when I've been introduced to people, the results are totally the opposite. Wondering about how to break through when doing cold outreach. Thanks.
Wow, great question. That's a good question.
Well, that's something that you love, networking,
There's really two parts. There's really two parts of this answer, and the fact that that you were able to find out on your own that the person to person was far more effective than the cold call. Okay. And that also comes back to people do business with and respect people that they know, and they do business with people that they like. And there's a whole, obviously, a science around interpersonal relationships and networking and all of those other pieces. But I think what you're trying to do, if I'm hearing this question right, part of the question is not only how do you get to those companies, but how do you scale your business? Okay. Because if you were going to do it only one, that could take you longer than if you could reach those companies in a meaningful way, that you could reach more companies while you are doing your networking and building those relationships and getting into those companies. First thing you obviously have done is started to figure out which companies you think are your target markets, or the kinds of companies you think are the target markets. Is this something that the companies are going to use for their employees? Is this something that they're going to use as something to give to their clients as a gift? Right? There are all kinds of different ways. Now, obviously, not having the opportunity yet to see what the product is and what it is that you're doing. There's also associations like Advertising Specialty Association, ASI. Okay. That's the association that represents all manufacturers and developers of products that are sold into the premium incentive market. And they are sold through distributors. You may or may not know about this or not. So I'm going to assume you don't, just for anybody else who's listening who might have the similar question. Advertising Specialty Institute is the conduit. I'm just using it. There's other people, but I'm using that as an example. Is the conduit for you then to reach distributors, people who already have corporations as clients, and they sell them all kinds of promotional products. They sell them their mugs and their hats and their awards and anything they put their name on. Okay, anything they put their logo on is sold through an advertising specialty company. Okay, whether it's a distributor, usually it's a distributor that's representing a manufacturer. It can be a direct manufacturer too. The Bic pens will sell directly to a corporation with their name on it. They also sell through distributors as well. So there are ones that do both as well. But you could reach a lot of people without you doing the legwork if you were to sell through distributors. So that would be another channel for you to grow that business without you having to hump it every day. Then you would have more time to hone in on the big fish that you think are going to be the ones that are going to bring you the most return. So you're now part of the advertising specialty, family. You're marketing your stuff through them. That's done in a very almost like a hands-off kind of a way. And then people will call you and say, "Oh yeah, I want to buy this for such and such corporation." You sell it to them. You'd have to sell it to them wholesale because they've got to make money too. They're a distributor. Then you're also at the same time building the other side of your business, which is strategic partnerships, networking, and going after those companies that you already have an idea are going to be your best customer. You're going to need to spend more time infiltrating those, going to the right kind of networking events and asking the right kind of people to make those introductions, because everybody knows somebody else. I don't care who they are or where they are in the stratosphere. I've gotten some of my most valuable introductions from people I would have never thought knew person at that level. It's unbelievable. You just don't know. So don't make any preconceived, decisions or judgments on who you're talking to and what they can potentially do to you too. That's another piece that I always emphasize to people. Do not dismiss anyone because you don't know who they know. So I would be happy to obviously have a deeper conversation with you offline. Deanna can still, reach out to you and stay in touch with you, and we could set up a time for you and I to have a conversation offline, because there's a lot of things I could tell you and a lot of pointers I could give you this is the part I love, because it's sales and networking sandwiched together. So I could definitely tell you more stuff.
Yeah, even your energy changed. You're so energetic. You were so energetic.
I love this stuff. I love this. This is what I live for. If I could do that all day long and didn't have to do some of the other things that one has to do when they run a business, I'd be happier than you know what.
Well, that's why we're growing your social media, and that's why we are launching this program, because that's actually the ultimate goal.
Amen, sister. Amen.
So let's say his company, I'm not sure if it's a company yet, but his project is small, right? So how can he reach our bigger companies, and what would be, what's the ideal way to reach a bigger company without being overlooked? Because bigger companies can take advantage of you, right? Because they understand.
They might not pay attention to you because of size. Okay, the first thing I say to anybody who has that in their head, I say, want to get rid of the head trash. Okay, forget about the fact that you're small. Okay, because how you think is going to impact what you're going to be able to do. Okay, just because the company's bigger, just because somebody's higher up than you, just because I get this question all the time. Okay, sometimes I get it from a networking stand of view. How do I talk to somebody who's above me, who's richer than me, who's got a higher level than me? And I say that I make that face because you can talk to anybody. Okay, and for a select few, most people will entertain a conversation with you regardless of what level they're at. But you have to be confident that you're not showing that you believe that you're beneath them. Okay, and that's true for your company as well. Just because a company's small, you want to know how many tiny companies have become big companies because they went directly to larger companies and said, "Look, this is what I do. This is why it's going to be good for you. And I'm a little guy, but I can kill this, man. This is something that you need." One of the things you really have to do, and a lot of people don't do, is your homework. Find out which companies actually need the good service, product, whatever it is that you need, that they already currently buy. or they're already currently in contracts with other people. They've already defined your market for you. It's already been defined. Now, your problem is, okay, well, how do I get in? They're already buying this from somebody else. What do I got to do? You've got to find out what they're doing. And nowadays, it's easier than ever. In the old days, this information was a lot harder to find out because there wasn't internet. There wasn't all the sharing of knowledge. There's not all this social media. The companies that are doing business with other companies, they put all that out onto the internet. You can go and just look at it and see what they're doing. That's amazing how much information there is. I do it all the time. I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot of information. Then you say, okay, I noticed. You can reach out to this big company. Hey, I noticed that you are buying this good or service, but you know what? I got a better mousetrap. I know I'm a smaller company, but I got a better mousetrap. More innovative. I'm more nimble. I'm hungrier. I'll give you better pricing. I'll make sure I'm there when you need me. All of those things become value propositions. Plus, these large companies generally have edicts, whether they're internal or external, to do business with small business. They actually are looking for small businesses to do business with. Some of the biggest problems those companies have is that they actually seek small businesses to do business with, but those businesses aren't buttoned up enough to actually handle the business. That is such a bad thing. Okay.
What a small business needs to
a large company may come to you and say, you know what? I really like what it is that you've made. I really like what it is that you sell, what you produce. And you know what? I'm going to give you a small order, and I need 100,000 of them. Okay, maybe it's Walmart. Okay.
Oh, okay. You mean small companies are not prepared to scale?
Exactly. You have to believe that you are going to succeed and have a plan to scale, because that's the other piece. If you're going after whales, with this gentleman's company, again, I don't know what the card game is, and I don't know, what it entails or what it takes to manufacture or anything like that. But if something hits, you've got to have a plan in place in order to deliver, because you know what? You're not going to get multiple bites at that apple. If they place an order or they want to place an order and you say you can't deliver, you're done. You're done. You're done. You're done. They're not coming back because they don't have that kind of time.
So what should be in that plan?
That plan should be a plan to scale. There should be a plan if you believe and you're going after whales, there should be a way to scale it. Or there should be a stepped process to move it into that corporation. You can come to them up front and say, look, I can deliver 50 units, next week. I can deliver 200 units a month after that. I can, whatever it is. And then you can give a scaled process. When you put a situation like that together, and a lot of companies allow you to do it, I see so many companies miss the deadline. Do not miss the deadline. If you miss the deadline, you're saying to them, I'm not only small, but I'm incapable of judging what I can and cannot do. I am not interested in doing business with you. Period.
Mm-hmm.
They're relying on you to deliver something that's part of what they're delivering to their clients in many cases. So if you don't deliver, they can't deliver. That's a problem. Okay. So again, that's the conversation we could have in a deeper, at a deeper time.
Okay. Arv says, actually, I'm looking to reach visionary people who would see the value of a unique game that they've never seen before.
Visionary people. That's an interesting vertical. Okay. So if you're looking for visionary people, they're usually entrepreneurs. They're usually running medium to small businesses. Well, they're running big businesses too. I mean, the Elon Musks of the world are visionaries. I mean, so obviously, but I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, but there's absolutely nothing that's preventing you from trying to get in front of Elon Musk. It's the only thing preventing you from getting it in front of Elon Musk is your thought process,
Well, and I guess, how do you get there? You probably need to know people how you can get there, because he probably is not going to reply to your DM.
I am willing to bet that there's someone in your extended network that could get to Elon Musk.
Like you. I know you. It's already one.
If I had a reason to get the Elon Musk, I would tap into my network, because obviously I don't know him personally. I would tap into my network and I would reach out to people that I know that are on his level, that I have a relationship with, and say, I would be very, very clear about why I wanted to reach him, though. Hey, I want to call Elon Musk and have coffee with him. No, that's not going to work. Okay, you have to have
just for a selfie.
You have to have a clear reason why you think there's a value proposition for you getting this in front of Elon Musk, and then that person can say, you know what, this makes sense. This could be something he might be interested in. You know what? Let me talk to his director of marketing. Let me talk to his, one of his key people. Let me run this up the flagpole, and I'll get back to you, and I'll see if this is something that you can get into his world where he might be able to take a look at it. It's a process, like anything else. It's like dating. You got to go out on the first date before you get married. I mean, there's a process in between. So that's what you have to commit to, is the process. But you can pretty much, in this day and age, with the connectivity of what social media brings and what networking brings and interpersonal relationships bring, you can pretty much get to anybody.
Right. Well, and that is one of the topics that you will be teaching on.
That is one of the topics that we'll be covering. Yeah, that we'll be covering in our modules for our program, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I know you, and you taught me that networking is like the key to anything.
I started my business in 1981, and believe it or not, there's still a few clients I still have from when I started my business. Okay, I've had clients for 20 years, 30 years, and it's not because I like to think what we do, and because we have Playos, our marketing agency, with my partner Larry. We have diverse promotions. We have facilitated connections, which is what we're talking about here. But I like to think all of our family of companies and all of our folks that work with us have a unique way of delivering what we do. But let's also be realistic. There are other people who can probably deliver similar products, goods, and services. But people are doing business with us because of who we are, how we treat them, personal relationships that have been built over the years. We may not be the least expensive, but we're reliable. We have a personal relationship. We know who they are personally, if they're having things going on in their lives, things of that nature. All of that culminates into a relationship. And I would rather do business with somebody I like than somebody I don't like, especially if it's something I have to buy anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just a reminder for everyone who listens, we're taking questions live, and if you want any advice on your business challenge, comment on LinkedIn, and we'll be answering your question.
Yeah, we can also, I want to add to that, Deanna, too. If you put something in there, that is something that it's after this, or you may be watching the video or whatever, you can always send us questions. I will definitely do everything in my power to answer any questions before, during, or after. Okay, something like this, because I think it's important. One of the big things that hasn't been actually verbalized in this conversation is the other goal of this is to build community. We want to build a community, okay, of people who are interested in moving their businesses forward. I learn more from other people that I'm working with than any book, than any movie, than any, thing on internet or YouTube or whatever. From individuals that I interact with, I learn more every single freaking day than I do on all of those other things combined, because you can then have direct conversations, and everybody has unique experiences. So I want to make sure that I mention one of the major goals of embarking on this is the building of community, and helping everyone who's part of that community, wherever we can, to build their business. Everybody has to build their business in order for them to survive, for it to grow, for them to be able to create jobs, all of those other pieces. And of course, to keep the lights on and eat. there's that too.
We have a question from our listener, Kadim. So Vic, what would you suggest to a small IT startup trying to get their first batch of clients without a huge advertising budget? Would you advise against door knocking? Thanks.
Okay. Great question, by the way. Love the question because you can see how excited I get.
Is there a way to get, I mean, there is always a way, but is there a way to get clients without advertising?
Absolutely.
Would you networking? That's the answer?
No, the answer that would be too yeah, that's the broad umbrella, sure. But a little bit of research is going to go a long way, and a little bit of looking into what that, and I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier. In that case, if you don't have a big budget to advertise, there are lots of things that you can do through LinkedIn. Is an amazing tool. If it's used properly, it's a Swiss Army knife. But you do have to put a little bit of time into actually sifting through the folks that you're interested in getting in front of, because you have a specific good service. I mean, if you're in IT, you have a specific thing and a specific reason why you're trying to get in touch with them. Who the decision maker is within, if you're selling to small companies, medium-sized companies, or monster companies, who is that decision maker, and starting to build that outreach. It's kind of like a muscle. It's kind of like going to the gym. You got to do a little bit of it every day. Okay. Or you're going to get fat and lazy and whatever. You got to do a little bit of it every day. You don't have to kill yourself, but you got to keep on making sure, because the larger you pack your pipeline and continue to pack the pipeline, it takes a little while, and then stuff starts to fall out the other end, and you're like, wow. And it's the funniest thing. You're going to be like, wow, all of a sudden I'm getting these opportunities that I didn't get before. You're not getting them all of a sudden. Okay. What you did was you packed enough into the pipeline where they're starting to fall out the other end, because there's a time that they have to be nurtured and a time in which that they have to travel down that pipeline. Would be happy to talk to you about some specific tactics that you could use in order to open up. Once I would want to have a deeper conversation with you about what you're actually doing and what the actual, IT is such a broad thing. It's like a gigantic umbrella all over, on top of all of business. Everybody has to deal with IT in some way, shape, or form. So it's huge. So I'd want to know a little bit more specifically about who you're going after, what kind of companies you're going after, and then we can define who is the person who's most likely to make the decision, who's most likely to have an interest in what it is that you're doing. And that can come from a one-on-one conversation. This is kind of even though you're asking a question, we're not having a conversation. I would need to have a conversation with you, and then I could really give you some tactics.
Well, probably next time we can bring you on as a guest on a stream, and we can have a live conversation. Yeah. So Kadim, if you are interested, let us know.
Yeah.
Also, I have a question for you. I know, you said about using LinkedIn to reach your prospects, but I know that you personally don't reply to all of the people that reach out to you. So what would be the message that would catch your attention? Like, how should I reach out to my prospects? Because we get those messages every day, like, Victor, I'm a such and such company, I'm doing great things, and let's connect, let's do some business together. I'm not interested in that, but what would be the message that you would reply to?
It's interesting because I'm going to give you somewhat of a mixed answer on this, and let's specifically, we're going to talk about LinkedIn because I think that's probably the one that most people use for business, that's almost purely a business platform. There's some social stuff on it too, but it's primarily business. There's been times that people have reached out to me, and they were complete strangers, and they were doing something, or had a good or service or whatever, was something that I actually was in the market for, okay, at the time in which they reached out to me. All right. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is essentially a cold call. They may say, I know somebody who's in your network or whatever, but it's still essentially a cold call because it wasn't a personal introduction. They did it through LinkedIn. And I'm like, you know what? I'm interested in that good or service, and I respond, okay, to that message. And before I hit send, there's a message coming back to me. Oh, Vic, I'm so glad we connected, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's bullshit, because now what you've done is you've set up some kind of an automatic reply to my personal reply. I'm not interested. This is me. If you can't reply to me personally, I'm not interested. Okay? Because you are trying to sell something to me, not the other way around. So that's a pet peeve of mine. And that person's done with, they're off. I get rid of them because I'm not interested in that. So if you're real to me, if you're genuine about reaching out to people and they do get back to you, don't have some kind of automatic reply that's, bullshit. Reply to them personally and say, hey, man, so glad you took the time out to look into what I was doing. Would love to set up a time to have a conversation with you. If they're in my proximity, maybe we have a cup of coffee, maybe we have a conversation, phone call, whatever it is. That's a personal response, not some instantaneous response. No human being could type that fast. There's no way that person personally responded to me. They have a canned thing and it's sent back to me. I'm not interested. And that's just,
Right. So before you send your first message, you need to do a research and adjust the message so it's like personalized, and then go along with that.
Yeah, that's what I would do. And there are people who've done both with me, where I have sent the note back, an hour later, 50 minutes, because the other thing too, if you're sitting there just, on your computer, then that's suspect too. But they send a note back and say, wow, Vic, nice to meet you. So glad that you responded to me. Maybe I could learn a little bit more about what it is that why you found this interesting and what you might need of the goods and services that I provide. Let's set up a time to chat. Great. Cool. And then I'll take it to the next step, because that has happened and people have ended up selling me something who I did not know. I didn't know them, but we connected. They did it in a personal way and I ended up buying something from them.
Okay. Well, Kadim says that he's down, so I guess it's a date.
Okay. Excellent. Love to have the conversation. Yeah. And Deanna, you can coordinate that. We can coordinate a conversation.
Sure. Well, we have a few minutes left, and I would like you to talk a little bit more about our program. Well, first of all, is there anything about strategic alliance development that we haven't mentioned? I mean, the topic is very broad.
It is broad, and there's a lot of strategy in strategic alliances. So you do have to think them through, and there are many different ways to do them. So I'm not saying that, here's the formula and, you got to follow this menu. No, there are many different ways to do it, because there's many different companies and there are many different reasons for even wanting to form a strategic alliance. So that part of it's somewhat individual. There are some basic things that you need to follow, integrity issues and things like that. But those are conversations that we could have, and those are conversations we will have as part of our program. That will certainly be a module in the program where we drill a little bit deep, not a little bit, a lot of it deeper into how you really reach out and get those types of, that type of information and how it applies to you and your situation. There are broad things that work and there are concepts that work, and we've read all the books and we've done all of the things, and some of them are very broad, but they're not personal, because everybody has nuances to their business. They have nuances to the way they do business, and they have nuances to their personalities, which have to be accounted for when you're out there selling your good or service or product. Okay. And you can only do that by having a direct conversation, period.
Yeah. So it's going to be a 6 weeks program. We're going to start on June 1st, next Saturday, actually, in a week and 7 days. And we're going to have one call a week with Vic and the group. We only have 15 seats, so only 15 people can join, because we want it to be as personal as possible. And we want everyone to have to grow their business in in a month and a half, and to get insights and value. That's why we only have 15 seats, and we're offering a promo code for you guys to get $200 off this program. If you want to join us, you can go to our website, victormnichols.com/networking. And if you have any more questions, please reach out to us. We're also going to bring one of the best professionals to this program who will help you out to reach your goals. And
right.
Vic,
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
could you please talk a little bit about speakers? Because we're going to have one call a week with a speaker. Yeah,
so
please.
yeah, that's the other thing too, is I think I mentioned it earlier in the conversation about community, about building community. So this is not just about, I wonder all the things that Vic knows, that's not really what this is about. I'm going to be a contributor to with other people who, believe me, in many cases are far smarter than I am, that we're going to be bringing in on to have conversations about different topics. You can see who are first. I think we have six lined up. You'll be able to, when you go to the site, you'll be able to see who those 6 people are going to be, who are going to be part of that program. So you're going to be able to hear from each one of them. You're going to be able to talk with each one of them. You're going to be able to interact with each one of them. So I'm not going to go here because we only have 4 minutes left. But though, if you go there and you check out those first 6 speakers, and then as we continue to build the program, there will always be partner speakers who have specific expertise in specific areas that will augment the conversation, the information, and the way in which you can help move your business forward. Because again, I talk to as many people as I can because I learn stuff all the time, and that's the way.
And as additional bonus, we give one personal consultation with Vic to every participant, and it's going to be only for this group, because as we move forward, we want to add bonuses, add speakers, and we want to extend our program. We also want everybody who ever joins our programs or our digital product to have access to a library that will be building that will be built through the years. So like all the calls that we have in this program, you will be able to access for as long as our account exists. And let's say if you join this program in June and we have other speakers in July or August, you will be able to access in the library these conversations. So basically it's like one purchase, but you will be able to stay in the loop, in our community.
You become part of the family and part of the community. That's the whole idea behind it.
Yeah, because we want you to get to have access to good knowledge, to insights all the time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we need to say anything more. And I think with a minute and a half left, I think we moved it right to the right to the edge. But I do want to say thank you to everyone who took the time on a holiday weekend, on a Saturday morning, to listen in to our first live stream. There will be other live streams, and there will also be we're going to be also setting up calls too. We'll be setting up, more like Zoom calls where you actually will be, completely interactive, not just kind of semi-interactive, where people will be able to, also interact with each other. Because it's not only about listening to me, it's also listening to each other and realizing, wow, this person has the same problem I have, or you know what, I already figured out how to do that. Let me tell you what I did. That's the community part of it. And that's what we're trying to foster here. So I just wanted to make sure I used my last minute for that. We're at 9:59, so I'm going to say goodbye for now. And then we will continue our journey.
Yeah, stay tuned for our future streams. I love doing that. Thank you all for coming, and thank you everyone for watching this in later on YouTube or anywhere else. It was great. Great talking to you, Vic.
Okay, thanks. All right. Well, I'll see everybody soon.